I'm gonna start something new, cause God knows if I just stick with Maximum Doom, I'll have a gun in my mouth before I'm even a quarter of the way through the damn thing. Today we'll be looking at hard, fast, Fajo maps? Must be French. Alright, in all seriousness, I'm a staunch ally of the LFBTQIA+ community, so I will henceforth be referring to this WAD as hffm. hffm is an 18-level boom-compatible map set for Doom 2, released in 2021. It's a community project put together by the fine folks at VR, 4chan's retro games board, and is designed to celebrate Billy Harrington, gays, gotchi, goatsy, and all things fabulous. Before we begin, a few notes. First off, I never really paid much attention to gotchi shit back in the day, so I'm sure a lot of this is going to sail right over my head. But the commitment to a theme must be applauded. The weapons aren't changed a whole lot, but every other sprite has been altered in some way, along with their corresponding sound effect, and they're pretty damn good. Second, I'm playing the final 4.0 release, and I'm using the uncensored version. We'll see how long my channel lasts. There's also a censored version, which doesn't really change much to my knowledge, and a couple more that remove the new sound effects and sprites. The one on the id Games archive is the censored version. I'll try to dig up download links for the others. Lastly, I gotta shout out a guy on YouTube, Enraged Eggplant. As far as I'm aware, he's got the only 100% playthrough of hffm out there, and it helped a lot in making these videos. With all that aside, let's sink elbow deep into map 1, Ruinous Hole. I wouldn't exactly call this fast or hard, maybe a half chub. You start in a small tech base area, which is fairly simple, then move outside into some gaping ruins. It's mostly shotgun chain gun work, although there is a secret berserk pack if you want to spice things up with a little fisting. I'm not too familiar with some of the textures here, so it took me a while to find the proper switch, but once you do, you'll be heading into the final stretch with a couple of decent fights, including this blowout. There are two problems with the combat here. One, it's easy to cheese by just hanging back and sniping enemies as they come towards you. Two, it's hard not to cheese it because there are so many goddamn gunners milling around. You can try to go balls deep, but you're just as likely to get your cock pinched off. You'll also get your first and second taste of the Archvile teleports into a room full of dead enemies trap that this WAD likes to ream you with. Luckily, they're pushovers here. It's a fine opening map, though maybe a secret rocket launcher wouldn't go amiss considering the length. I think it works better as an introduction to the theme. hffm has such sights to show you. I had more fun picking up dick bonuses and listening to the Archvile's new sounds than I did actually playing the damn level. The Ricardo imps are great, but my favorite change has to be the invisibility. Perfection. The music is also pretty good. This one is an old Descent track called Lunar Military Base. Ruinous Hole barely manages to pop your chocolate-covered cherry, but you can kiss this gentle rosebud goodbye, cause it's only going to get harder and faster from here. Next. Map 2, Bear House. Fitting name, cause things can get a little hairy. And it'll fuck you in the ass. You're tossed into a room full of baddies, with Hell Knights and Mancubi throwing down from the corners. The author gets a lot of mileage out of the relatively small space available, with doors, walls, and teleporters allowing the area to become repopulated with a variety of throbbing cocks. The door hiding the yellow key is a particularly irritating trap, releasing 2 pain elementals and 2 archviles, who will immediately get to work resurrecting fatties like McDonald's on opposite day. The room is filled with cover, but that's a double-edged sword. Learn the archvile's teleport pattern, and get the drop on them before they can raise havoc. There are 2 more areas that decrease in difficulty as you get closer to the exit, but the second one can still ruin your shit if the revenants take you by surprise. Best to grab the rocket launcher and hightail it out of there. Uneven terrain in an open space make it real easy for you to get hung up and eat some homing missiles. Gotta give props to the music, a MIDI rendition of Another One Bites the Dust. Negative props go to the Solitary Secret, which comes around a little late and doesn't offer much besides a bit of ammo and health. This happens at least a couple times to my recollection, where you're given goodies when it doesn't really matter. As much as I do prefer to play some WADs continuously, I always felt like a community project was most designed to be pistol-started. More like a collection of discrete maps as opposed to a linear experience. But whatever, I'm swinging both ways for these videos. It's a small stage, so there isn't much else to say. It's certainly harder, faster, and more likely to ruin your hull than Map 1 though. Next. Map 3, Piss Easy, made by... Yeah, if I don't mention an author, that means it was anonymous. But this was made by... When he says piss easy, he means it. While the last map was R. Kelly's Fire Hose, this outing is more akin to a feminine tinkle. It's damn short, and the multitude of traps are pretty simple to deal with for the most part. Few chain gunners, couple of revenants. The red key springs a bunch of demons, but they're no trouble to mop up. There is one kidney stone that you'll be forced to pass, however. When you decide to go splish splash in the piss bath, you'll get a pretty nasty double archvile closet. Although if you find the map's only secret, you'll be supercharged heading into this fight. So even here the difficulty is gimped. The next room is also booby-trapped, but you can cheese it by simply leaving before the door shuts. And even if you stay, there's a plasma rifle right there, and infighting will keep most of them occupied. You're practically golden showered with health items anyway. The last room drops you onto a platform filled with chain gunners and surrounded by mancubi, revenants, and arachnotrons. Seems like a ball buster, but nah, just run circles. Or drop down. You don't need a rad suit, just a diaper, because the PP is not a damaging floor. Much like in real life, the only thing stopping you from playing with piss is your own shame. The last challenge is 6 imps that are only revealed if you press an optional switch. Look, there's no way around it. The level is too easy. Should have been in map 2 or even number 1. That doesn't mean it isn't fun though. If you enjoy a quick romp through a good looking stage with a couple decent fights, well, you're in for a treat. Next. Map 4, Code Suppression, by A2 Rob. Jesus, the difficulty curve of this WAD is starting to resemble the fucking Stonks meme. Don't take that as a condemnation though, this is a good fucking level, even if it is a step up in both the hard and fast departments. The layout is simple at first glance, basically a single 2-tiered room with a few side passages. But damn is it crowded. You'll be getting hammered by chain gunners right from the outset, and once you hit the switch, the rest of the village joins in. The stars of the show are 2 cyber demons stuck on platforms. Don't let their lack of mobility fool you. The double dongers in question are, for all intents and purposes, situated ass to ass, and they got good coverage over the entire map. That's what I like about this one. There's a lot of clever design. For example, that hot start with the gunners? Well, there are barrels positioned behind them, and you're likely to blow them up, which helps deal with the initial ambush. However, those barrels are keeping 2 archviles pinned in, one on each side. And without them, those archies are free to resurrect chain gunners over and over and over, until you go back there and deal with them face to face. Oh, and actually getting back there requires finding the correct wall panel, which also opens a secret. None of the secrets are very hard to sniff out, but one of them gives you a BFG. It also lowers the cyber demon platforms. Yeah, ass to ass becomes ass to mouth, cause you will eat shit if you're not careful. This map actually got me to try 2-shotting cyber demons more often. I keep fucking failing, but I am trying. Here's another cool thing. The normal progression through the map has you take one of those side passages to a switch, which lowers the platform that the red key is on. However, this is optional. You can just bump the key and grab it early if you want. Then you hit the switch, which opens the door leading towards the exit. So if you're a cool guy, you can really shave your time down. The clever part is that the aforementioned door will spring 4 archviles on you. Normally, the red key platform has been lowered, so you can just run forward and blitz them with rockets or the BFG. But if you grab the red key early, you make it harder on yourself, because you gotta go around. And you know how fast archviles can be. It's a little touch, but it shows that the author was thinking of ways to spice things up. I appreciate that. Makes the map very replayable. It's fun regardless, although it'll take you a few tries to really get a handle on things. Hell, even just running circles around the cybers can be amusing, until you get hung up on a specter. I'm not sure if it's the texture set, or if they're just placed really well, but I've been having a hard time seeing the fuzzy fuckers in this WAD. Well, harder than normal. Anyway, Code Suppression. It's a great level. Next. Map 5, Candy Ass Single Finish. Okay, so that's not really the title, but don't worry. I won't let the bad word get you. This is a different beast from Map 4. The combat is easier overall, but there's one fight in particular that is annoying as all hell. The layout and progression is also more standard, but there are still some clever bits. The start isn't that bad until you try to leave. Then you're teleported to right in the middle of an invisible gangbang. Trust me, you won't see it coming. Luckily, you can just turn around and run away, or lure one of the other enemies into the one-time use teleporter line. Then you hit the switch, which releases a cyber demon. Again, turn around and run away. He'll eventually teleport to a more manageable location. Come on, you didn't think you'd actually have to fight him in this cramped hallway, did you? From here, it's mostly dealing with Hell Knights and their Archvile Masters, but you get plenty of ammo, which is good. You'll need some to carve out a foxhole for yourself in the blue key blowout. The cyber from earlier is now working the pole, but he's little more than a nuisance. The vials, on the other hand, are starting to get irritating. They really shine if you're going for secrets. Nothing pisses in your Cheerios quite like coming face to face with a hairless, flaming twink right after you find a way into a hidden room. Oh, and one of those secrets requires an Archvile jump, which is always a fun and enjoyable experience. Now those guys pale in comparison to the final enemy. You do in fact have to fight a cyber demon in this cramped hallway. I probably should have practiced my two-shotting technique more in the last map. Alright, I am exaggerating slightly. You can bypass them using a secret, although even then, you still risk getting splattered. Worse than that, the author calls you a pussy, which may be the only time Huffam acknowledges the fairer sex. One time too many. If you do choose to tangle with the Titan, you got three options. 1. Run in guns blazing, and pray to sweet Jesus that you live longer than your opponent. The problem is that this hallway doesn't have the length or girth to satisfy such an encounter. Also, Jesus hates gay people, so he's probably not going to listen to you. Option number 2, whittle the cyber down from this door, which is constructed specifically to make it as irritating as possible. Rockets are prone to miss, the BFG requires good timing, and you don't get a plasma rifle. You'll probably wind up shotgunning the sumbitch. Oh, and the door requires you to constantly go back and hit the switch if you want to reopen it. The only reason this is here is to make you impatient. You'll try to hold the door open with your body, which means you're more likely to eat a rocket. Fuck you, map author. Third option, and the best in my opinion, slip past the bastard and go right, toward the starting room. This is about as safe a place as you're gonna find, since he can't come into this end of the hallway. You'll take splash damage, but you get enough cells just before the fight to really dunk on his fee-fi-fo-fum looking ass. I know I'm a shitter, but to hell with this. I hate it. Good news is that you'll have some fantastic music to listen to while you're getting fucked in the butt. This funky track is from an old 90s sim called Transport Tycoon. I hadn't thought about this game in years, so bonus points for the reminder. Also, while the visuals are mostly utilitarian, except for this bizarre gut growth, I really do like the scrolling spine textures. When they're aligned properly, they produce a neat effect. Overall, the map is like eating spicy food. Fun, until it reaches the end. Next, Map 6, Fudge Packers Incorporated by Captain Mozzarella. Let's start with the combat. It's decent, but not really that hard, especially if you know where to get the goods. The beginning can be a little tricky if you need to kite some enemies around, and the ending is like the start of Plutonia's second map, where you're stuck on a lowering floor that gradually reveals enemies tucked in the wall. Except here, you'll already be stocked up, and the water is dookie. Alright, with that out the way, every other aspect of this map is fucking amazing. Don't be misled by the name. This has nothing to do with the prison industrial complex. No, you're literally in a fudge packing facility. And if you don't want to be spoiled, now's the time to skip ahead, because I'm going to talk about all sorts of shit. You start in front of the receptionist desk. Interacting with the monitor reveals a mastermind. It's a dangerous situation, but she can actually help you deal with some of the riffraff around here. And if you can get the knights to damage her, that's even better. See, she's guarding a rather obvious secret BFG, so you want her out of the picture. However, a bit farther ahead, there's a switch that'll crush her to death. The implication is that the room is filling up with liquid fudge. Of course, if you do this, you fuck yourself out of that BFG. So beware. If you do enter the room, you have to leave by hopping in the pipe, and you'll be dumped into this area. Head down here, deal with the arachnotrons, and you can grab a plasma rifle and a bulk cell. If, on the other hand, you fill the room up and kill the spider that way, the pipe overflows with last night's Taco Bell, and it fills up that gap, which is a nice visual touch and lets you cross to the other side. It also blocks off the plasma rifle in that little alcove. That's clever. How about this secret? At the very beginning of the level, you can see outside through these office windows. Well, of course you can get out there, but in doing so, the pipe dries up and you'll have a bunch of pissed off dingleberries gunning for you. Your reward is a fuck ton of ammo and a megasphere, which helps going into the final stretch of the map. Here you get to fulfill every office worker's dream and massacre the fucking boardroom. Focus on the archvile at the head of the operation before he starts resurrecting his subordinates. Probably the nicest thing a CEO has ever done for his employees. Or maybe you're a curious sort. Maybe you want to take a tour of the chocolate factory and see how the sausage is really made. Well, come upstairs and you'll find that the fudge is mancubus flavored. Very nutty. Oh, and dig these sector shitters. For any foreigners watching, this is what a typical American toilet looks like. But you know what? Going in the front can be kinda tricky. Well, here at Fudge Packers Inc., we prefer the back door. If you cross a particular line def, a boner will pop out. You can then take his little closet, or whatever the fuck it is, and come in through the rear. Also, once you have the red key, you can access this supply closet, with another plasma rifle and some toilet paper. Very cute. Keep in mind that mancubi don't have hands, so somebody's job description is to get down there and clean the trenches. The last guy fell in the fudge and choked to death on a piece of corn. The music. It's a track from Conker's Bad Fur Day, simply titled Pooh. Yeah, that really is the dingleberry cherry on top of the shit sundae, isn't it? I can hardly think of a better choice. It sells the tongue and ass cheek vibe quite well. There's also this cool little sequence. Early in the level, you have to use a mixer full of chocolate cake batter to get around a locked door, and you can see the red key in there. Well, after killing the mancubi, the mixer empties out, so you can drop in and lick the sides. Then you lead through the hole, which dumps you onto this conveyor belt. Well, if you hit the computer panel next to the conveyor, it'll start shitting out health potions. I forget exactly how many are here, but it's over 100. I really like that. Oh, and in case you're not aware, in Huff'em, the health potions are bottles of Viagra. But apparently the little blue pill is actually a little brown pill. Speaking of sprite changes, you'll also pick up the chainsaw on this map. Yeah, looks like somebody chopped Kirby's dick off. No wonder that guy is always trying to fill the void with food. I'm just grateful that VR made this WAD and not Pole, or that dick would be blacker than midnight. Look, I could go on for a while, but rest assured, this is a fantastic fucking map, and it may very well be my favorite. We'll see how it holds up as I continue through the WAD. Even if you don't play anything else from this project, you gotta check this one out. All of these maps are, bare minimum, pretty good, like a nice hot beer shit. But this one? This is a man's log. You gotta turn around and admire the tree sitting in your fucking toilet. Highly recommended. Next. Map 7. Full Thrust. You stalk into the depths of this facility, hearing strange grunts in a familiar tune. You peek around the corner. You see 18 demons in the showers at full thrust. Big hard maps, ready to be stomped. 18 sweaty demons wanting to be shot. Full Thrust really rocks. Indeed it does. The music is a beautiful MIDI rendition of the Ram Ranch anthem, although it does lose a little something when you can't hear Grant McDonald going on about naked cowboys having shower orgies. But don't worry, you'll be having a shower orgy of your own. There are in fact 18 sweaty demons, pink, tan, and brown, all the colors of the American rainbow, and they're just waiting to be aroused. Yeah, this starting area is a bit troublesome, but there is a secret around here with a berserk pack that makes things quite a bit easier. You'll just have to bend over and pick up the soap to find it. Best bet is to leave most of these eager beavers in the dust, till you can come back with some better weapons. Just don't forget to snag the yellow key from one of these very meaty toilets. While the gimmicks and general tomfoolery of the last map are unfortunately missing, the combat is pretty fucking good without being overwhelming, and you get plenty of health items. When you reach this cool looking room, you got two options. I like to head right first and get my hands on a big thick rocket launcher. You'll pay for it with a couple of teleport traps, but they're pretty tame. Going left gets you the super shotty, if you prefer that, but you also have to deal with this cluster of revenants at the end of a long... something. I actually don't know what the fuck this room is supposed to be, but it's oriented north-south, so you can wall run to avoid rockets, thankfully. The final battle is something else though, and quite fun. You're up on this platform, and when you hit the switch, 3 walls will start lowering, with a wave of baddies behind each wall. This culminates with a double Cyber Demon encounter, which is actually easier than dealing with Archviles, Chain Gunners, and Revenants. There are also 3 pillars that come down with the walls, and each one has something useful on it. But of course, when a pillar has lowered completely, you can't use it for cover anymore. It's a great fight and a good send-off. I'm not sure what the fuck this exit structure is supposed to be, but it reminds me of a prolapsed butthole. Next. Map 8, Drain Snake. We've been shat back into a sewer system, but the turds around here are decidedly spicier. This is one of those maps that gets a lot easier when you know what's coming. Half the difficulty comes from stumbling into traps you didn't know were there, but the author always gives you ample recovery space, as long as you don't let yourself get boxed in. Also, you get a supersized allotment of shotgun shells, and that's not even counting all the shotgunners you'll be wiping up. The hotspots involve Archvile traps. You get a taste early on when you nab the blue key, but the real test is after grabbing the red key. This opens a series of closets around the map full of the flaming fucks. 6 in total, but even that's not as bad as it sounds. The bulk of them are situated around the beginning area, which means they tend to congregate in this moderately sized corridor. The perfect width to pinch off a few rockets and deal maximum damage. And if you saved plasma, which you won't really need for anything else, then you're fucking golden. On top of that, the map itself is not very big. You got the main sewer area, which opens up a few times, then you head outside for a series of fights leading up to the red key, which is probably the best part. After you deal with the Archviles though, the map is basically over. I must say I like the sewer/ruins look that the place has got going for it. Imagine if everybody started shitting in the middle of Pompeii. I also like all 5 secrets, they're very useful. Props to the one with the backpack so I finally have something to put all these shotguns in. There's a couple of sigil-style eyeball switches as well. Apparently the creator is some guy named Ron Jomero. Anyway, it's all fun and fast, but not too hard. Next. Map 9, Jawbreaker, by Dr. Fuckhead. Open wide, cause this map is a mouthful, at least at the beginning. It consists of 1 outdoor area stuffed with enemies and 4 warehouses. The opening is quite fun. You can run circles and get some infighting going, then clean up the barrens. The hardest part of that is not stumbling into the deaf chain gunners. They'll chew you up and spit you out. Or maybe they swallow. I'm not actually sure. After that, you move from 1 warehouse to another, and each one has a different challenge. I hate to admit it, but this middle section, the meat of the map, goes a little limp. Thankfully, the Judas Priest MIDI kicks enough ass to pull you through, but these rooms are pretty weak. The first one empties out at the beginning, so there won't be much left to deal with by the time you go inside. The second has a lot of fodder, which is okay, but it also has a godforsaken teleporting Archvile thing, not even a trap. This shit wasn't fun in Plutonia, and it sure ain't fun here. The third warehouse does contain a pant-shitting Archvile, but after that you get 2 Mancubi and these odd crushers, easily avoided. Then you enter Numero Quattro, which has a pit with 4 Archviles that can't escape. Facefuck them and the map improves a bit with 2 Cyber Demons and some turret enemies, followed by a Cybe Archie ambush near the exit that can really put you in a tight spot if you're not expecting it. While the end might be more difficult, the beginning is still more fun. Also, I had to call out the lone secret for being both hard to find and pointless. It gives you a super shotty about 5 seconds before you get one normally. However, it does contain a cheeky little message, and there's actually a couple more outside the map that I enjoyed. Dr. Fuckhead's greatest strength is his eye for detail. I especially like the second warehouse with the teleporting vials. Looks pretty cool. So does the door leading to the exit area. Unfortunately, the combat gets a little performance anxiety. Hey, happens to the best of us. Next. Map 10, Heart Attack. That Mario 64 music fits very well, but don't be fooled. This one's a little harder than swinging a giant turtle around. Any of y'all played Scythe? If so, you probably still have Nom flashbacks about Map 28, Run From It, where you have about 30 seconds to reach the end before you die. Yeah, same idea here, but whereas the focus in that one was almost purely on speed, this one is both speed and combat. As a result, you got a bit more wiggle room. But it ain't much. You start at the bottom of a large pit, and you have about 2 minutes and 15 seconds to reach the top, before the whole map is covered in blood. Damaging blood, piranha blood, Magic Johnson's blood, whatever the fuck you want to call it. It hurts. First, you have two choices, a super shotty or a plasma rifle. I always leave the plasma. You don't need it, and it just wastes time trying to clear the barrels. Then you head up a sparsely populated staircase and teleport to the second level, which is the hardest part. See, it's not just the fact that you're racing against a burst hemorrhoid, it's that there aren't any walls in the middle, so enemies on the other side can merrily pelt you with all manner of bullshit, and you don't have time to play it safe. I go left here to grab blue armor and a rocket launcher, then deal with the arch vials blocking the teleporter up to floor 3. Here you've got a smattering of enemies and a cyber demon that once again will mortar you from across the room. Oh, and his finely chiseled ass is blocking the exit, so after crossing a couple of uncomfortably wide gaps, you'll need to dance out into these poles for a BFG. If you fall off, you go right into the blood. So unless your name is Blade, I'd suggest watching what the fuck you're doing. This whole level puts me on edge, but in a better way than its counterpart. Run From It was just obnoxious. Heart Attack gives you the option to skip a lot of the second and third floor enemies. If you want to come back later, after the pit has already filled up, you get an invuln, 2 rad suits, and a secret megasphere, so it's really not that hard to 100% if you ration them out. One good thing about the Scythe map was that lowering the difficulty also opened shortcuts. Now there are no shortcuts in this one, but I think you get a few extra seconds if you're playing on baby mode. Don't quote me on that though. However, I'm almost positive that the blood does less damage, so if you're looking to practice, knocking the skill level down will help. Speedrunning has never been my thing, mainly because I enjoy bathing, but also I just don't have the patience for it. I suppose I could stop flushing my toilet for 3 months to approximate the smell of the average GDQ, but I digress. Point is, even though I'm not the biggest fan of this style of gameplay, I do enjoy Map 10 as a one-off. Heart Attack has grown on me. Not my favorite, and it gives me fucking angina every time I play it, but I can certainly respect the gimmick. Next, Map 11, Just Be Yourself by Hand Peeled. First off, the text file says that the MIDI is E1M6 on the hunt, when it's actually E2M1, I saw the demons. Also, the fucking MIDI sounded weird as hell when I was recording my playthrough. What's even weirder is that I went back and replayed it after capturing footage, and the track sounded just fine. I can only assume I'm being haunted. Now onto the map. We are thankfully back to more standard fare. In fact, it sorta reminds me of Map 8, Drain Snake. Except the traps here are a lot more likely to drain their snake right in your fucking ass. Before, it was closets that opened up, and usually you had a way out. This guy, on the other hand, loves his teleporters, and he likes to spring enemies on both sides of you. Take the beginning. You have to fire to remove the barrels, and once you do, baddies start flooding the area behind you, so you're forced to move out into the open. The sniping revenants are a nuisance, but once you approach the end, 2 Hell Knights will block your path, followed by a steady stream of gunners and imps that prevent you from moving forward. There's also an identical deluge of dick bags pouring in from the other side, so retreat isn't much of an option. It's a nice tight squeeze to be sure. The chain gunners in particular are troublesome. They're put near the end of the teleport closet, so they won't come in right away. This means you can't use them for infighting as well, and it can also catch you off guard because they trickle in over time. On top of all that, once you do make it into the next room, several demons pop up out of nowhere. Trying to navigate this boner buffet is hard enough on solid ground, much less on this weirdly uneven floor. Not the first time I've had trouble with the terrain in this WAD. The rest of the map is one trap after another, and like I said, for every 2 floppy dicks in your face, there's at least one trying to sneak up your butt. After grabbing the blue key, 3 arch vials spawn in around the map. Luckily, they aren't too bad if you save rockets, but that first vial is accompanied by a teleport trap very similar to the one at the beginning that blocks the very same fucking doorway off, so landing shots will be difficult. There's also a secret plasma rifle that I had a hard time finding, but you'll want it for this bloody bonanza. Again, Hand-Peeled is a jerk with his teleport closets. You don't have a whole lot of plasma, and the room is a little cramped, so you'll want to rely on the chain gun to whittle down the first wave of zombies. The problem is that you don't know when the Revenants or the Arch Vial will spawn in, so you'd better be ready to switch weapons. Luckily, you get 2 invisibilities which can mitigate things. One last tip, save some heavy ammo for the final room. You got an Arachnotron on either side of you, and jack shit for cover. Not exactly a gangbang, but certainly a sticky situation. Well, now that I think about it, maybe it does qualify as a gangbang. There are 8 legs after all. Any more and you enter orgy territory. Any less and it's just someone stuck between a couple of guys that are trying real hard not to make eye contact. Anyway, it's a pretty good map that forces you to pay attention. The training wheels haven't come off yet, but they are starting to wobble a bit. Next. Map 12, Later Forever by Lunch Lunch. You know you're in the end game now. Only a few more maps await the toughest, the hardest, the most flamboyant Marines out there. You ready your weapon and pry their back door open. You are ready to penetrate deep into the horde of demons and finish them off one by one. Don't you just love these middies? I don't think Prince ever sang about this shit, although I am feeling nuts after that starting room. It's a hot one to be sure. Gunners on both sides of you. However, this is about as bad as it gets. In fact, I'd liken the whole stage to having sex. The hard part is actually getting in there, but once you do, it's just back and forth until you finally reach the end and shoot something very white. Well, okay, the condom does break about 2/3 of the way through when you get to this room. So you run down the hallway, the door shuts behind you, and the rest of the area opens up. There are 4 switches you need to press to leave, and there are 9 arch vials guarding the damn things. You do get a BFG and enough ammo to deal with the opposition, but most of that ammo comes in the form of small cell packs scattered around the room. Also, the floor is damaging slime, so you're on a timer running around like a chicken with its fucking head cut off, trying not to get zapped as you hit switches and nab cells. It's basically Pac-Man on steroids. Instead of collecting little balls, you have little balls. I really like this. But after that, it's a breeze, and you get 2 blueberries. Whole map is pretty short, but I do enjoy it. I also like the way it looks. Starting to think I got a soft spot for these toxic ruins. That Archvile room in particular is nice. It's got this flooded catacombs vibe. Overall, fast and fun, but not very hard. Don't worry, Lunch Lunch will make up for the lack of difficulty very soon. Next. Map 13, The Leather Club by Captain Mozzarella. This is the same guy behind Fudge Packers Inc., so you know you're in for a treat. And much like that map, we got another MIDI from Conker's Bad Fur Day, this time a track called Rock Solid. The bulk of the level takes place in the club itself. You got 3 rooms and 3 keys. The rooms come preloaded with all manner of demons. Daddies and doms, bitches and bottoms. And whatever the hell you call a mancubus wearing a Speedo. Each key unveils a minor trap, nothing too bad. Again, Mozzarella puts more emphasis on just having a good time than he does on the difficulty. It's a step up from Fudge Packers, but the combat's still not gonna bust your balls. Some of these contraptions might though. The blue key room is full of all sorts of crazy shit, and half of it doesn't even shoot at you. I guess I'm a bondage newbie, but some of this seems like it'd violate health and safety guidelines. The attention to detail and cute gimmicks is, as usual, the author's greatest strength. The central area is a disco, complete with a bar, lounge, DJ Baron, and a dance floor that changes colors. The yellow key is situated in the bathhouse, where you'll find lots of heterosexual and purely platonic fun going on in the showers. Unfortunately, to even get in here, you first have to find a non-secret area leading to the basement, which is kind of a pain, but I'm willing to let it slide. First off, there's a pretty big hint that there's a room back there, and the entrance is kind of obvious. If you get stuck, check the walls. Second, there's a neat little sequence down here. You press a switch that dumps some monster corpses into the furnace. This lights the place up and it heats the bath, which in turn causes the occupants to open the doors for you. That's cool. Most of the actual secrets are also pretty good, although hardly necessary, but I have to give special props to the most obvious one at the beginning. There's a gym about 2 blocks down from the Leather Club. Here you'll have to fistfight some revenants, and the boss of this gym is a Hell Knight. Don't worry, he's a complete jabroni, as long as you don't get stuck on his long, hard pole. Well, the place looks nice, especially these treadmills, but there's something in here you can interact with. I'm not gonna spoil it, but it's a level of detail you don't see too often, and it's fucking great. Same goes for the spawn, actually. You start the map on top of a manhole, presumably the one you crawled out of. I didn't even catch this at first because the area is so dark, but if you IDDT, you can clearly see a few footprints leading away. I love playing maps made by guys that obviously enjoy creating them. Now, if you manage to find the super special non-secret in the gym, you'll have a BFG, which helps a lot when heading into the final fight. You step into this love chamber and interrupt 2 cyber demons on what has to be the sturdiest bed in existence. It's a good fight, little cramped, but you get some cover, and as long as the blushing brides don't split up, you should be fine. I like the way the room looks, especially the hearts on the floor. Hell, the place even looks like a big, throbbing heart. Anyway, you do that and open the wall behind the bed and enter the janitor's closet, I guess? Dear Lord, look at all that cum. His socks must be in the wash. At least you can use the gallons of dried semen to get back inside, if you missed anything. Oh hey, a little gun. Wait, what's that? He does it for free? Between this and Map 3's little Easter egg, Jannies are officially on suicide watch. Oh, that's great. Next. Map 14, Somewhat Possible, by Lunch Lunch. The best map names are the ones that are technically correct. You're loaded up with a bunch of goodies, which is always a bad sign, then dropped into a tiny room with 2 arch vials and 2 chain gunners. Then you open the door, and the room gets flooded with several revenants. Then you make it outside and release 2 pain elementals and another arch vial, who will of course start raising boners like a 9-year-old just walked into a room full of Minecraft YouTubers. After all that bullshit is dealt with, the WAD makes its first foray into slaughter territory. But it's not that bad. This arena is a little cramped, but you get a teleporter at each end that prevents you from getting cornered. And you get a cyber demon to help take out the trash. Combat then slows down for a bit, although chucking this many specters out there is inevitably going to ruin somebody's day. The penultimate fight kicks things back into high gear. Sort of. Proper infighting will save you a lot of trouble and ammo, but you'll get plenty of both regardless, especially if you're unaware of the 2 imp closets. The final switch throws several arch vials onto the field. You know how that shit works by now, and you should have enough rockets and cells to mop them up with relative ease, assuming they're not constantly surrounded by fucking Hell Knights. It's a fun map and a good introduction to this style of combat. Consider this a gentle sack tap to wake you up before map 16 comes along and tries to uppercut your balls through your fucking cranium. Aside from that, it's got a nice MIDI, End of Line by Daft Punk. One of my favorite tunes off the Tron Legacy soundtrack. It is a little slow-paced for this type of outing, but I won't complain too much. The place is also nice to look at, especially these alternating fire blue panels that also scroll. This is called Bitrate Genocide. Speaking of genocide, this final room has a wonderful style to it, and if you turn your transparency settings down, you'll be duking it out under the watchful gaze of everybody's favorite Führer. I actually like this. Maybe I just work well under pressure, but having several Hitlers staring and judging my every move, well, kinda gasses me up. Next. Map 15, Temple of Flesh. What is a Temple of Flesh? Well, according to Google, it's a BDSM club in San Antonio. What do you do at a Temple of Flesh? I guess you get fucked. And in that sense, the map author gets points for realism. You start in a room with 4 caged cyber demons. Shoot the switch to open the way out, then try to avoid the horde of fat pink pricks making a beeline for your beehole. The good news is that the cybers will keep the pinkies occupied while you're tiptoeing around upstairs. Infighting will be required, and thankfully it's not hard to pull off. Just know when to put those berserk fists to good use. You get a megasphere, but not much else. And that health will dwindle fast when you're forced to punch out revenants. It'll dwindle even faster if you don't find the secret invisibility, cause outside, you got a lot of gunners to deal with. After that, you move from the temple to the flesh. And by flesh, I mean you drop into an ulcer. Or maybe it's just my stomach after finally finishing the fucking WAD. It's not hard though. Again, the Mancubus is great at both provoking infighting and soaking up damage. Then you spring a couple of arch vials, and one will teleport into the room behind you. It's a little annoying with no cover, especially if you can't take the first one down quickly enough, but once again, a secret will save you. There's a switch around here that raises 3 gut pillars, just enough to block line of sight. I have to say, for such a short map, the author does a fine job with secrets. They're well telegraphed and quite useful, but not strictly necessary. The one complaint I do have is that the final secret is tied to 3 Commander Keens. I've never been a fan of this shit. It usually amounts to a pixel hunt, and sure enough, 2 of those Keens are so hard to see, they might as well be playing grab ass with Pluto. Fuck that shit. If you do find them though, you get to crush those cyber demons just before exiting the level. Oh, and there's one last arch vial, but he's never a problem at this stage, just save some plasma. The whole map has more of a combat puzzle feel to it, and while the difficulty tapers off, I still like it. Wish I could say the same for what's coming. Next. Map 16, I sawed the demons, and they were pretty hot. I hate this map. Damn thing punched my kidneys so hard it was raining piss in China. Well, more than usual anyway. It is, in my opinion, the most difficult level in the WAD, and probably the apotheosis of the general hard and fast conceit. The map is tiny, but there are so many throbbing cocks crammed inside. Reminds me of the first time I ever saw midget porn. Here's a little tip that my stupid ass didn't figure out at first. You can lower these 2 pillars. And by can, I mean you'd fucking better. As soon as you move forward, the hounds of hell will be let loose, and all you can do is stand there with your dick in your hand. Literally. Poke some assholes and get some infighting going. That's good advice for most of the map. And this clusterfuck in particular damn near requires you to get the cyber demon to clear out some of the chaff. There are plenty of arch vials, revenants, hell knights, some barons, couple of pain elementals, couple of cyber demons, and you've already seen all the space you're gonna have to play around in. The good news is that you should have enough ammo. Bad news is that it's mostly chain gun bullets. Now before you have to deal with the first cyber, you do get a plasma rifle, and the second cyber can be dealt with using a BFG. Thank fucking God. Also, you get 3 megaspheres, a soul sphere, and some blue armor. So the map author isn't a complete turd, even if he expects you to eat a couple on your way to the exit. Special mention has to go to this medikit near the beginning. You will almost certainly need this while dealing with that initial ambush, but if you try to pick it up, a revenant pops out the floor. Very mean. Although now that I've played the map several times, I find that he is good for infighting the Baron. There are also 2 eyeball switches that open up secrets. One of them isn't that bad and you get some more medikits out of it, but there's another one that I can barely fucking see. It's like the Commander Keens in the last stage. How the hell do you find this shit? And even when I do know where it's at, it's hard to actually tag. I've made my thoughts clear on this type of thing, but I'm still gonna verbally wipe my ass with it, just for effect. Look, maybe saying that I hate the map is a little strong. I've certainly played worse, but I really can't see myself booting this one up again anytime soon. Next, Map 17. Take 10, guys. Or take 10 guys, whatever floats your boat. This one is actually not that bad. In fact, you can think of it as a breather before the next outing tries to tickle your fucking tonsils. Still not a cakewalk though. There are some nasty traps here. Luckily, you can usually finesse them to mitigate the damage you take. For example, the starting room has 4 doors that open up to reveal an equal number of chain gunners. However, the walls here jut out just enough to offer some protection. In the next area, you'll have to hit a switch and you'll be locked in that part of the room for the longest several seconds of your life as you desperately try to avoid Revenant missiles. If you can press yourself up against the right-hand wall, those skeletons may get stuck on the right side of that slab, and they won't be able to hit you. Or you can alert everybody else in the room and try to drag them over to act as impromptu meat shields, which also saves you chain gun bullets, so you can hopefully keep those Revenants at bay. Of course, all this requires luck, but I don't know, just blow a fucking leprechaun or something. After that, you're locked in a room with a Baron, and there's no cheese in this fight. Then you're locked in a larger outdoor space as walls come down to reveal a couple of Cacos, few Revenants, and finally an Archvile. Then the map's over. Yeah, it's one of the fastest in the whole WAD. The music makes it seem even faster. I've been neglecting to mention it, but the past couple maps have had some real bangers, especially Temple of Flesh, with another Judas Priest song. But this one really takes the cake. It's a track from Contra Hardcore, called Rave. I love blasting bad guys to a pumpin' MIDI. It's like fucking while listening to Marvin Gaye. It just makes sense. Except here you're not dicking down semen demons, you're dicking down normal demons. I just wish the map had more to do. Next, Map 18, The Occult. Much like the actual occult, it's not as bad as it seems. And it mostly consists of a bunch of malnourished assholes dancing around a pentagram, or a decagram in this case. Right out the gate, you get 2 BFG shots and a handful of arachnotrons to use them on. Then you get to play Ring Around the Rosie while you figure out what comes next. Might want to bring a barf bag. From a pistol start, you'll be forced to dodge Revenant rockets for the first part of the map, which I kinda like. It keeps you moving. Also, the ammo count is spot on. You get just enough to scrape by, and there's a cache of shells near the end if you do run dry. What's not spot on is this stupid fucking encounter. There's an Archvile stuck in this room with the yellow key. When you approach, the ceiling around him becomes a crusher. You need to run up, tag him, then get out before you're turned into a very thin, very gay paste. Then rinse and repeat until he dies. At which point demons pop out and try to trap you in the room. And if he starts lighting you up, well, there isn't a single hiding spot nearby, so you better hope that crusher comes down in time. Which, to be fair, it usually does. And that's also fucking annoying. See, a secret around here requires an Archvile jump, which is bad enough, but even getting him to attack is a pain in the ass. And if he doesn't start the attack at the right moment, the crusher cuts off his line of sight. You can't get too close to him because you won't make it to the secret platform in time, and that platform is perpendicular to both the hallway you'll be running down and the Archvile, so it's real easy to go selling off in the wrong direction. Oh, and the platform is kinda small. What a fucking turd. All that for an invuln that only exists so you don't have to run back and forth trying to bitch slap the Archvile. It's pointless, awkward, and lame. But enough about my high school years. Let's talk about the other secret, which also deserves to get shoved inside a locker. It leads to a megasphere, but you can only reach it after using the first yellow switch. Also, you'll have to contend with another Archie right in your face, which means spamming rockets and hoping you don't eat too much of your own shit. Or you can use the super shotty, but only if all the enemies outside are dead, which basically means you have one very specific moment at which to go for the secret, and you may not have enough ammo at that point to deal with the vial. Honestly, best time to grab it is at the very end, but this is the last map in the WAD. Either I'm missing something, or the author was missing a few brain cells. Anyway, you finally get around to blowing the boners, and you drop into this pit, with a lot of cells and hell nobles that'll teleport in. Well, except for this guy having a tardy party in one of the closets. Not too difficult, just don't get trapped. After this, you'll have 3 cyber demons to contend with back up top. It's a nice way to cap off the WAD. Not very hard, but you'll want to focus on one cyber at a time. There's some ammo right in the middle, which you'll probably need, and weaving between all 3 of them is like dancing through a minefield, daring an earthquake. Thankfully, that first tall boy goes down pretty fast if you use him to clear out the Revenants beforehand. Now the MIDI is from a shmup called Demon Star. It's pretty good, which isn't surprising. It was also composed by Bobby Prince. That and the general aesthetic are probably my favorite parts of this otherwise lackluster final stage. Don't get me wrong, I do enjoy certain aspects. The opening, the revenants, the Baron Pit and the Cyber Demons are also fun. Unfortunately, there are also elements I don't enjoy. And even worse than that, the map is kind of anemic. More enemies, another area, make the slime a damaging floor perhaps? I'm not sure how to fix it, but it leaves me wanting more. Map 19 is just a little epilogue stage with a sick dance floor and an even sicker beat. Very groovy. That's it for Huff'em. It's a fucking great WAD and you should play it. Picking favorites is like picking which marshmallow you like best out of the box of Lucky Charms. Who gives a shit? I want them all. That being said, I guess the red balloons of this particular WAD are the final 3 maps. Still good, but not quite as fun as what came before. I'm just gonna say I did not care for map 16. I sawed the demons alright, but not because they were hot. It was a pity sawing. However, even with that stage, most of the problem is just my lack of skill. That's the good thing about Huff'em. There's a map for everybody. You want something that'll bust your balls? Try map 16 and map 14. Somewhat possible. Want something a little lighter? Arguably Bear House, Code Suppression, and Fun Single Finish fit the bill, but definitely check out Full Thrust, Just Be Yourself, Later Forever, Temple of Flesh, Take 10 Guys, and The Occult. Yeah, the bulk of the WAD rides the difficulty line, which is good. If you're just in the mood to plow a bunch of bad guys right in the pooper, Ruinous Hole, Piss Easy, Drain Snake, and Jawbreaker are pretty straightforward romps. Or maybe you enjoy a creative map. Well, Fudge Packers Incorporated, Heart Attack, and the Leather Club should be right up your alley. I know they were up mine. In fact, I have to say that map 6, Fudge Packers Inc., is my personal favorite. It's just so damn fun to replay and look at all the cool shit. I also want to shout out Temple of Flesh. It's probably the one that's grown on me the most. No matter what though, this WAD is positively entertaining from start to finish. And after map 16 raw dogged my neg hole, well, I think I might be positive too. Highly recommended. Till next time.